We're live.
Welcome, ladies and gents, to the pilot episode of Straight No Chase. My name is Richard Belton.
My name is Jeffrey Holmes. Welcome.
So, Holmes,
Let's talk about it.
the Micah Parsons trade.
Let's talk about it.
Give me your thoughts on how you believe it impacts both the Packers and the Cowboys.
So, from an analytical perspective, the Packers have lost a lot this offseason. They lost Jair Alexander, essentially a lockdown corner. I was hoping he was going to come to my Eagles. And they lost Kenny Clark, who was a shore up in the middle for their defensive line. I personally think their defensive line has gained but also lost at the same time. It's hard to replace a big body like Kenny Clark. And it's hard to have great cornerback play on the outside like Jair Alexander. But I think the Packers will still be a good team. On the Cowboys end, this is a tremendous loss. I think their defense will never be the same. I think Kenny Clark, Monty Smith, and whoever else is on that defensive line cannot stop anybody with a pulse. And yeah, I think it's going to be an ugly season for the Cowboys.
Man, you have a pulse. Can they stop us?
No.
Okay, so bottom line for the Packers. Last year, I believe they made the playoffs and went out in the first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
Do they surpass what they did last year in terms of their quest to win a Super Bowl with the addition of Micah Parsons? Do they go beyond the first round of the playoffs as a result of this acquisition?
I think yes, only because I think they'll be a higher seed. I think they'll end up with a home game, meaning they will win their division, and I think it'll be maybe second round, maybe NFC Championship, depending on how things pan out, depending on how the rest of the league pans out. But I do have faith in the Packers to win their division this season. What about you?
I think on paper, the Micah Parsons acquisition makes them the biggest threat to dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles for supremacy, at least within the NFC. When you take into consideration who they just acquired, a generational talent.
Okay.
One of two players to have 12 sacks or more in each of his first 4 seasons. The other guy being Reggie White. And we're talking about in the NFL's 100-year history. So, let's be clear regarding who they just acquired. Now, the guys you mentioned, Alexander, Gary, solid performers, Pro Bowl caliber players. Generational talents have a way of masking deficiencies. So I think that they are going to be a top 3 seed in the NFC. And I think at a minimum, they win a playoff game, if not make it all the way to the NFC Championship. Because you got to also consider they have Jordan Love, who is a star in the making at the quarterback position. Josh Jacobs, an all-pro caliber running back. You add Micah Parsons to that mix, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with this season, in my estimation.
All right, so let me ask you on the Cowboys end. What is your prediction?
They are cursed. The Cowboys are cursed.
Why? You can hold the mic, talk.
Because Jerry Jones is still their general manager. And he proves time and time again that his time managing anything other than his health is up.
How do you feel about the Cowboys' chances of making the playoffs?
They have no chances.
So 0% chance out of 100.
I'm going to say yes. I believe losing Micah Parsons puts the Cowboys dead last in the NFC East and in the Archie Manning sweepstakes.
That's a major take. Pause.
It remains to be seen. But when you lose your best player, arguably your best player, consider the impact that has on the entire organization, especially the players in the locker room.
I agree. I feel as though Micah Parsons, to your point, Richard, is a generational talent. I think with just being a player in sports, high school, college, obviously not professional. You yourself were a player in high school. Just it's like losing one of your best friends. To CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons is his best friend or a close friend of his. To Dak Prescott, that's like his brother. They were all fighting for him on social media, having Micah Parsons as their profile pictures. They were essentially protesting to Jerry Jones to keep him, and he denied their request. And now he's unfortunately in the green and yellow. Happy for Micah. He deserves the money. I hate to see the Cowboys go like this. But, this is the NFL. It's a business at the end of the day.
Also consider when you play with a talent like Micah Parsons, his mere presence inspires confidence and belief. And when you lose someone like that, how does that impact the trust that the individuals in the locker room have with the coaching staff, the front office executives who make the decisions? It's a major, major blow. This is curse of the Bambino proportions for the Dallas Cowboys. For those of us who are baseball aficionados, when the Red Sox traded Babe Ruth back in 1919, they did not win the World Series for 85 years. The Cowboys have already been 30 years removed from their last Super Bowl victory. They are probably another 50 years to go before they win it again.
I ask you the question now. This was not a part of our topic of discussion tonight. This was not a part of the plan. Do you think the Cowboys should tank for a new team? Do you think they should start the rebuilding process now? Rip the Band-Aid off?
Absolutely. But I believe ripping the Band-Aid off, unfortunately for Dallas fans, starts with a new regime and a new general manager. And I don't know that that's going to happen.
I say this. If you look at the Cowboys' body of work, this is on paper. They, in the past, I want to say 5 to 10 years, they have drafted the most All-Pros on their team. I don't think it's a Jerry Jones issue. I think it's a mismanagement of talent as far as coaching. When I say that, I mean Jerry Jones is not the greatest owner or general manager in the league. It's Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, but that's another conversation. But Jerry Jones knows how to find and draft talent. Micah Parsons, Ezekiel Elliott in his prime,
CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, DeMarcus Lawrence.
The list goes on and on. He knows how to find and draft talent. I just think it's a mismanagement of talent and underdevelopment and lack of player performance.
Very well said. I would remind you, problems start at the top. You talked about the issues with coaches, their coaching style, how they develop the talent. I ask you, who's responsible for hiring the coaches?
Jerry Jones. And so with that being said, let's move over into the NFC East with the Washington Commanders. They just signed Terry McLaurin to a 3-year, $96 million deal. Do the Commanders stand a chance against my Philadelphia Eagles?
Do they stand a chance against the Eagles? I'm going to say yes. I can see the Commanders splitting with the Eagles.
Why?
In division games are always a toss-up. Familiarity breeds success. And when you play teams twice a year, every year, you develop knowledge, institutional knowledge almost, of what those teams like to do. And that puts you in a position to at least split. Now, whether or not they make the playoffs will remain to be seen. They won't be back in the NFC Championship. I'm glad Terry McLaurin got his money. It appears as though the leverage he did not have in the offseason manifested itself in the preseason when the powers that be were forced to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is the wide receiver core for the Washington Commanders, absent Terry McLaurin, left much to be desired, which is why he got paid.
So, great point. I feel as though Terry McLaurin, he's not a generational wide receiver as far as talent, but he has talent. He changes the culture of the Washington Commanders. I believe in the past 6 seasons, he's been the only wide receiver to have 1,000 yards with a different quarterback pretty much every season. That's unheard of.
That's a great point. And you have to consider the DK Metcalfs of the world.
Exactly.
The Garrett Wilsons of the world.
Exactly.
If you're going to give them $30 million plus, why not Terry McLaurin when you consider his consistency and, to your point, consistency regardless of the circumstances? Jaden Daniels, Taylor Heineke, Alex Smith, the quarterback does not matter. He's still good for 1,000 yards regardless of who's throwing him the ball. So when you produce, regardless of your circumstances, general managers and owners take note of that.
And it was just due time. Like, I feel like Terry McLaurin is a great player. What scares me about the Commanders, and we could start on this topic, is the lack of the running game. Like, I feel like the running game was neglected. If you were Adam Peters in the beginning of the offseason that you wanted to move on from Brian Robinson, why not draft the young running back for Jaden Daniels to complement your mobile quarterback? Why not be able to move the needle and say, hey, we need a better running game. We do not trust Brian Robinson, whether that's the first round, second round, third round. We need top-end talent as far as a running back is concerned. If you want your quarterback to grow and progress in this game, you need to compliment him and say thank you with a running game.
I couldn't agree more. My 49ers thank them for Brian Robinson. And if they are contemplating using Deebo Samuel in a similar fashion within which we use them, his versatility may very well be compromised to a degree by his injury-prone style to playing the game of football. He's extremely physical. We love that about him. And as a result of the physicality within which he plays the game, you can rest assured he's going to miss 4 to 6 games this season.
And who is that exactly? Say it again for the audience in the back.
Deebo Samuel.
I couldn't agree more. Deebo is the least durable player in the NFL. It's not sustainable to play the wide receiver position and the running back. He's almost like a Travis Hunter, like asking your wide receiver 2, sometimes 1 in some case scenarios, to play running back and take the abuse of D linemen and linebackers and then go against corners and safeties is not sustainable. I feel as though what scares me about the Commanders is, again, the lack of detail, the lack of explosive plays. So where you have a team like my Philadelphia Eagles, where you have an explosive Saquon Barkley, then you could top it off with an A.J. Brown or Smitty, or you could have Dallas Goedert going for a quick slant route or a drag route. You don't have that in Washington. Once it's Austin Eckler in the screen, maybe a Debo Samuel jet sweep, you're pretty much figured out. Or a read option of Jaden Daniels, you're figured out. So what can you do to balance out Jaden Daniels' ability to run, to keep the defense honest? If you do not have a 3-down back, it's not going to be sustainable in the NFL.
Not only that, the Commanders snuck up on teams last year.
I agree. Can we talk about the Bears game for a second?
They play a second place schedule this year. The Bears, the Panthers, and the Browns won't be on it. So now there are expectations for performance based off of how they performed last year in going to the NFC Championship. But they are now also exposed. Jaden Daniels, as phenomenal as he played last season, he won't sneak up on anybody this year. And at the quarterback position, the sophomore slump is real. Ask CJ Stroud. Ask RG3. Not wishing anything ill will towards Jaden Daniels, just being honest about it's going to be a more challenging year this season because there are expectations to at least go to the NFC Championship again or make the Super Bowl, coupled with a much more difficult schedule this year because of the success they enjoyed last season.
So how do you feel about the other side of the ball for defense?
I think their defense will be formidable. I'm not going to say it'll be a top 10 defense, but I don't think it'll be in the bottom portion of the NFL. In terms of playmakers on that side of the ball, I love Bobby Wagner. He's a little long in the tooth, though. I think they need a premier pass rusher, and I know they were in the Myles Garrett sweepstakes for a time. I think they need a premier edge rusher to support the linebacking core and secondary. And until they get that, I think the best they do this season is a wild card slot, if not making the playoffs at all.
So for me, the defense scares me. And here's why. Marshawn Lattimore, Bobby Wagner, Deron Payne. That's pretty much it. I like Frankie Louvu. I think he could be out of control at some points. The thing that nobody seems to talk about, in my opinion, out of all the podcasts I watch, out of all the First Take, ESPN, gurus, anybody you name, the media screams Commanders offense. Nobody talks about their defense and not being able to stay level-headed. And when I say that, you can see specifically when they play the Eagles or the Falcons, or it's like a high playoff moment. They're getting bailed out with calls going their offense's way. Defensively, it seems like they're panicking at some points. It was a lot of pass interference calls last year against Marshawn Lattimore, especially against my Eagles. It was a lot of offsides calls, especially against my Eagles. They don't seem disciplined as a unit, and that's what scares me. And not to mention that they're old. A lot of their defense is in their 30s. That's not a formula for success in the NFL. A lot of the young, great, talented defenses are young, in their 20s, early 20s at that. The Eagles, the Chiefs, the Bills, you name it. The best defenses in the league are in their younger days. So I think if I'm the Commanders this offseason, we got to look for young talent, defensive talent. And it starts in the trenches, obviously. That's the Eagles' formula to success. That's been the 49ers' formula to success. That's been the Chiefs' formula to success. You name the teams that pretty much have been in Super Bowl appearances, NFC, AFC championship appearances, the Lions. You have to win the trenches. And to me, the trenches is not strong enough for them. To Richard's point, the edge is non-existent. And I feel like they didn't address that this offseason. It's kind of disheartening because you do like having talent within your division. You do like having competition within your division, but I feel like they neglected the defensive line this offseason. They in years past they let go of what's the guy's name from the Bears who plays for the Bears now?
Is Montez Sweat?
Yeah, Montez Sweat, Chase Young. They have neglected the edge for years now. And to me, it's time to address it.
Not only that, I'm sure the Commander fans feel like they're still waiting on the return on their investment in Marshawn Lattimore. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze last season. It remains to be seen if that addition will bear any fruit this season. But Jeffrey, let's switch gears a bit. Let's take a look at the NFL landscape as a whole. And let's talk about our predictions in terms of division winners, overall playoff participants, conference championship participants, Super Bowl participants, and your Super Bowl champ for this year. What you got?
So for me, it's simple. Just on time, the ESPN notification. For me, it's simple. AFC, I have the Ravens as the 1 seed, the Bills as the 2 seed, the Chiefs as the 3 seed, the Texans as the 4 seed, the Bengals as the 5 seed, the Steelers as the 6 seed, and the Broncos as the 7 seed. For my NFC, I have my Eagles as the 1 seed, the Packers as the 2 seed, the Falcons as the 3 seed, the Rams as the 4 seed, the Lions as the 5 seed, the 49ers as the 6 seed, and the Arizona Cardinals, surprise, surprise, as the 7 seed. Richard, go ahead, and then we'll go to the conference championships and why.
Similar picks. In the NFC, my division winners, I'm going to go Eagles as the 1 seed, Packers as the 2 seed, my beloved 49ers as the 3 seed, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I believe they will defend their division crown this year to round out my top 4 in the NFC. The wild card. In my experience, when you lose coordinators, that's a setback. And the Detroit Lions lost both of theirs, so I believe they'll go from division winner to wild card this year. The same old Rams, as I like to call them, I believe they'll make the playoffs as a 6 seed. And I like what the Falcons are doing. I believe they will round out the NFC playoff participants as the 7 seed. In the AFC, not much is changing as far as who wins the divisions. I believe the Bills this season will be the 1 seed. The Chiefs will be the 2 seed. The Ravens will be the 3 seed. And the Texans will be the 4 seed. My AFC wildcard participants, Bengals and Steelers at the 5 and 6. So I believe the AFC North gets 3 teams. And I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins to round out the AFC playoff participants.
Wow. So let's talk, Richard. Before we get to conference championships and Super Bowl picks, why do you have the Dolphins as a 7 seed? If you had to convince all the Dolphins fans out there in the world watching us, straight no chaser, why should the Dolphins have hope this season?
Speed kills.
Okay.
They have Tyreek Hill, the fastest man in the league, Jalen Waddle, and they also have speed at running back with A-Chain and Mostert. Now, the caveat is whether or not Tua stays healthy. So if Tua stays healthy, I believe they will have enough on offense to compete and ultimately secure a wild card playoff berth.
Okay, I like it. So, for me, reason why I have the Arizona Cardinals as a 7th seed is simple. to all my Eagles fans out here, I'm sorry. Just something tells me Jonathan Gannon in year 2 is going to figure it out, and somehow they sneak into the playoffs. It's simple as that. I like Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I do. I want to see him win. I really do. They have guys like McBride as a tight end. They have guys like MJ, Marvin Harrison Jr. as a wide receiver. They have guys like James Conner. They have Budda Baker. They got Josh Sweaty from my Eagles on the Cardinals. Something tells me the Cardinals is going to find a way to sneak in the playoffs this season. Yes, I'm going to a game week 2. I will be in the building when they play the Carolina Panthers. But I'm saying that to say, something just screams to me the Cardinals is my sleeper team this year. That's my sleeper. And that's my answer.
My sleeper or my dark horse is in the AFC. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals for a few reasons. Number one, they've been there before in terms of the Super Bowl. And while they lost, at a minimum, they know what it takes to get there. I believe they have the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the NFL in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. A Pro Bowl caliber number 2 receiver in T. Higgins. And they did not break the bank exclusively on offense. They ultimately signed their best player on defense too, in terms of Trey Hendrickson. So I believe that the Cincinnati Bengals are primed to make a run to challenge everyone for supremacy, at least in the AFC.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let's transition into conference championship picks. Richard, you go first.
In the AFC, I'm going Ravens, Bills.
Why?
Well, I'm tired of the Chiefs for one. And I do believe with this being a copycat league,
Okay.
with how your Philadelphia Eagles defensive line dismantled their offense, I believe that's going to inspire confidence in the rest of the NFL.
Okay.
And while everyone does not have the Eagles personnel, I believe enough teams on the AFC side of the bracket will challenge the Chiefs such that this will be the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career that he will not make the AFC Championship game as a starter.
Wow.
I believe that.
You heard it here first.
Ravens, Bills on the AFC side, with the Bills emerging victorious. And in the NFC, why not? 49ers, Eagles, once again. A few years ago, y'all beat us pretty bad. And we have some unfinished business.
Okay.
Considering we've been to the Super Bowl twice the last 5 or 6 years or so.
Okay.
We're tired of being the bridesmaid. It's time for us to bring home the trophy. So, my Super Bowl pick. And I'm channeling my inner Chris Berman here for my ESPN NFL primetime folks from back in the day. Chris Berman used to pick the 49ers and the Bills every season and it never materialized. But it will this season. 49ers and Bills in the Super Bowl. And my 49ers will bring home Lombardi Trophy number 6.
Wow. All right. Thank you for that wonderful soliloquy, Richard. Unfortunately, that won't happen. I like to say, you heard it here first. I have Bengals versus Bills. Let me tell you why. To Richard's point earlier, Jamar Chase is a generational talent. He is probably the best wide receiver that we have seen in the past, you name it, years. Joe Burrow is a very talented quarterback, and you cannot underestimate that. Last season, I said it. I did not have a podcast platform to say it on to be it stamped. But nobody in the AFC wanted to see the Bengals. Nobody. Not even the Chiefs. More than likely, we probably would have been playing the Bengals in Super Bowl 59. So with that being said, I like the Bengals and the Bills. I think Josh Allen has a lot to prove. I think with the combination of the wide receiver core, with the tight end core, with the running game with James Cook, they got Dawson Knox, they got Kincaid, they have Shahir, they have wide receivers for days, right? And then with the defense and Sean McDermott, what he's doing, I just think it's due time. You know, this is their last hoorah in their stadium. I might be at a game this year. Who knows? But this is their last hoorah in the stadium. And I just think it's due time. And I feel as though the Bills and the Bengals will be fighting for their right to be in the Super Bowl. With that being said, I like the Bills winning that game. I don't know by how much yet. Of course, these are just our predictions. Now, on the NFC side, I toss and turn at this every day, every night, because the NFC is going to be tough this year. I really want you guys to know this. I don't want you to think I think my Eagles are just going to run away with the NFC again. It's not.
Don't worry, they won't.
It's going to be a dogfight. But with that being said, I think we're dogs ourselves, and we're going to withstand the fight. But I think we're going to see the Detroit Lions. Something tells me they got something to prove. It could be the Lions. It could be anybody from the NFC North. It doesn't matter. But my pick is the Lions, and here's why. Yes, they lost both coordinators, but they still have that running game. They still got Montgomery. They still got Jahmyr Gibbs. They still have Sam Laporta. They still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They still have Jameson Williams. And I just think last year they have a bad taste in their mouth from the freaking Commanders. But I really think this is Detroit's year to come back and make some noise. They got Aiden Hutchinson. They got their defense back being healthy. And they're going to have something to prove. So I got us versus the Lions in Philly, of course. I think we're going to beat the brakes off of them for two times in a row this season. I say Sunday Night Football, we're going to beat the brakes off of them. You can stamp this video. And I think the NFC Championship, we're going to beat the brakes off of them. And so with that being said, I got Eagles versus Bills in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 60 in Levi Stadium. This guy's going to be sick. And then my Eagles are going to repeat as Super Bowl champions. It's going to be, I don't know, an Eagles landslide, a lot to a little probably again, and 2-time Super Bowl championships. That will be 3 Super Bowls I witnessed in my life as a grown man. This man has witnessed none in his life as a grown man.
The Eagles win the Super Bowl this year only on the Madden, not in real life.
And you said that last season. And this is episode 1, guys. Thank you all. We had a great time. Richard, what you got to say? Close us out.
Great experience. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your time. Our time is up. Stay tuned for the next episode of Straight No Chase.